you going? I just want to give an update on Allenwood Playground. Been a while since I give an update on that, so a few things have happened, and I think the last update was that there was a Part 8 planning application that had to be suspended while we looked for a new location. So few things been going on, and we're obviously behind the scenes, and we're ready now to let people know what's happening with that. So basically where we were was we had a site down Station Road in Allenwood, which had been offered by Actal, who own this enterprise park and the offices, and they also own a creche down the back here on Station Road in Allenwood. So generally here is Actal, Allenwood Community Development Association, and I can just bring up for a moment this map here, which shows the original site that we were looking at. So it was basically this area here. When you entered into the driveway to Bright Sparks Creche, there's a piece of ground here which isn't being used at the moment, and we had hoped to use this for a playground. So obviously there was a Part 8 planning application that the council had to do a lot of work on, and there was a design drawn up to match exactly this site. And then when we started to while we were going through the process of getting planning permission for a playground here, the ESB, who actually lease out some of this land to Actal, pointed out that as part of their lease, this piece of ground couldn't be used for recreational purposes. It couldn't be used for a playground, and it took a while to figure out if this was the case. I had heard rumours, and I asked a question in a council meeting, and I was told that the council were moving on from this site, and then I saw a meeting with the ESB and Actal to clarify that for myself, and I did find out in July, I think it was, or August, that yeah, this site had been ruled out, and we were kind of set back to the point where we have to redo the Part 8. But obviously first we'd have to find a new site for the playground. So we looked at a couple of sites that I had. When originally I selected this site, there were other options, and we went back to some of those options, but a new option came available, and it was again, it was offered by Actal, but it was this site here. So originally when I heard that there was a new site, and I heard that I was behind the creche, and believed there was this site, which would have been kind of tricky to get into, and I wouldn't have thought much of that site, to be honest. But I went out with two people from the parks section in Kildare County Council, and we looked at this site here, which it's between Bright Sparks Creche and the men's shed, and the Scouts Den is here. So there's already a number of community groups active in this area, and it's compared to the site, the size of the site is 0.248 hectares. So the original site was 0.280 hectares, so it's not much smaller than the original site, which was a good big size of a site, and this one is big as well. It's a big location. I mean, the playground itself would only take up a small piece of this, but the council would have bigger plans for the rest of the area. And as you can see, there's trees and stuff in it already, so there's a lot you can do with it, you know, and the council will probably work around that landscape. But so at the moment where they're at is they talked to the people, the men's shed, they talked to the Scouts, and they talked to the creche, and they just wanted to let them know what their thoughts were about this site. And there were some discussions, but I believe those discussions are complete now, and they're happy enough with what they want to go ahead with, and they're getting a design done again, because obviously the original design for the original site, it has to be redone to match this site here, and again then you go through the Part 8 again. But I'm happy that it's moving along with this site here, and I was just in a council meeting the other day where we did get a report, which I can just find now. We got a report about Actal. It was related to another issue, but what Actal said was this is what they're saying at the moment, that they basically give a report on what they're doing, and in the report they say a new playground is earmarked to open within the next 24 months. That's ACTA saying that. I didn't hear any timelines. I mean, obviously they know more than I do, but this was given to full council meeting as in a report. So I thought that was positive. You know, if it's like really the Part 8 the last time we're back, we're set back by a year. But look, if it was to happen in the next 2 years, I'd be very happy with that. The other thing, that's the site now, so that's where we're going with. The other thing was funding. So what happened before is we weren't too sure about where the playground would be funded, but there was one. I did receive a grant from the Driad Community Grants on behalf of Allenwood Tidy Town, so that was a nice bonus for us. And if I can just bring that up for you now. So we got 51,385 was awarded. The thing was that this was awarded last April, as you can see, and it was awarded on the basis that we started in October, as already the Part A was we were looking for planning permission, and we thought, and obviously it didn't start within October. So the council have written to the Driad grants, whoever's in charge of these grants, to ask them to extend this. So hopefully they extend it. If they do, then we still have 51,000 available. But another piece of news that recently the council approved the capital programme for the next 3 years, 2020 to 2022. It's a 3-year capital programme, and in that they basically lay out where they think they're going to need money for playgrounds and different. This is the recreation programme, so there's a few different sections to it, obviously, but the one I've been paying attention to is the recreation programme, because in here we have Allenwood Playground 330, and just zoom that up. So Allenwood Playground, and they're projecting expenditure of 180,000 next year, 2020, and then 150,000 2021. So the council are saying that they think they're going to spend 330,000 on Allenwood Playground in the next 2 years. And of course then we had that other grant on top of that, so there's almost 400,000 in funding between what in the capital programme and what's in the grant so far. So that's funding. Just there was a few kind of other thoughts on this playground. The first was about reaching the actual playground when it's built. I mean, it continuously, when I talk to people, they talk about how you get to it. Now, when I did the research on the playground initially, I worked out the population that say would live in the village of Allenwood in the estates here, and then I worked out the people that live in the outskirts, such as Allenwood South or Kilna, and 30% of the population of the village live around Allenwood Cross. So look, the other 70%, no matter where it is, even if it's at the cross here, they would have to drive to it and park to it. So it's one of the reasons why this location is good, is that it did have the original one had a large car park here, and obviously there will be some consideration given the car parking here. But a footpath down Station Road in Allenwood, a long-term objective, I think. When new housing estates get permission, I think the council do ask them to put roads or footpaths along the road in front of the new estates. But obviously it's whether anyone develops down this all the way down to, as far as even the GEA club, I don't know, because if you don't have a developer building houses, then you have to look for land acquisition, which is I've already found out it's very expensive. But one exciting thing that I did hear about lately was the idea of using old loco tracks as walkways, and obviously what was here previously was a power station, and to fuel the power station was from the nearby bogs, and you can see here the remnants of an old loco track. So the locomotives would carry the peat from the bogs all the way in here to the power station. And the idea that's been I've heard about recently is to use the old loco tracks as pathways, walkways. So if you do that, I mean, even taking this example of this track, there's one goes up north here to Timahoe, but this track here comes through, passes the Grand Canal. There's a lifting bridge there, and then it goes through Allenwood South all the way to actually very close to Lullymore Heritage Park. So the idea is that if you put proper surfaces on these old tracks, that you could actually use them for cycling and walking. And when I heard this, I immediately thought, well, that's a great link for people from Killina or from Allenwood South or even from Lullymore to get to the playground without having to worry about this dangerous main road. It's an alternative. Of course, it's a long-term plan, but it was a very exciting plan when I heard about it. But and I've already spoken to Allenwood Tidy Towns, because we need a kind of a leader for this kind of project in an area, and Allenwood Tidy Towns would be willing to lead the section that comes through Allenwood if it turns out that this is even feasible. I mean, obviously you have to cross the road here. The lifting bridge, it's you can't cross it by foot at the moment. In fact, it's just a frame. You would have to have steps on it, and obviously that's a big project in itself. But look, it's just that the possibility is there. And the last thing, of course, was when we did have the submission in for this previous site, and the main issue that came up was that the playground would be inclusive, and that would have play equipment for all children, including children with disabilities. And I think that's a given these days, that when the council build a new playground, they do have that by default. So that will be there in the new design, and we'll get a chance to see it, I'm sure, in the next few months. But and that's where we're going with this new playground now. So hopefully we don't get any more hiccups, because it has slowed us down, but that's where we're at the moment. Thanks.